This is my second time recording this video, first bit of it anyway, because I rambled on for 8 minutes, so I'm going to try to keep this really short, which I have a hard time doing, but we'll see. Now, you get a model, right? You've downloaded a free one, you bought one, whatever. I didn't introduce the video. Whoops. This is a very basic video covering the very basics, not the very basics, all the steps, but it covers what a 3D model is, what are textures, what textures do you need, that kind of thing for general stuff to get into Unreal, but this is specifically for Ground Branch, for modding guns and stuff. So, let's start, I suppose. You could have a blend file, which is for Blender, which is a very good 3D modeling application, so, or software, whatever. You can get it on Steam. I would suggest getting it from the website, but you can get it on Steam if you want. Just get the latest version. I think as of now, that's like 4.2.2 or something, 4.2. It's a good version. So, I would suggest opening Blender. It should give you like a config. I think it's mostly UI stuff. It's not a big deal. You can just use the defaults. You can change it if you want. I think that's mostly for people who are coming from older versions of Blender so they can feel more comfortable and change things to be like the older versions. And then once you've clicked like OK or whatever, it should show you like, oh, do you want to do general file, video editing file? Just click general and then you'll be in Blender. So I'm going to click this because some of the texture files don't work in my FBX. That won't be a problem with a release, but like it was a pain in the ass for this because this is a really old model I did. And I lost some of the files, so they're only inside this blend file, and I didn't feel like exporting them. So, look at that. You're not looking at a gun right now, of course, because it's just a regular blend file. What you'd be looking at is... Sorry, I gotta click this so you can actually see things. You'd see a grid, there should be like a light. I'm pointing with my hand at my screen again. See a grid, there'll be a light over here. Should be a cube at like 45 degrees. And a camera over here. So, you can just come up here, just select everything, drag with left click. You can hit delete. Can you hit backspace? You can't hit backspace. You can hit X or you can hit delete. And that'll just delete everything because you don't need any of that. And yeah. So, basic viewport controls. So, this right here, this whole thing that you're kind of seeing is the viewport. So you can just hold middle mouse and rotate around. Scroll, zooms in and out. And then if you're holding middle mouse and you use shift, sorry, I think I did it in the wrong order. Yeah, you have to be holding shift and then hold down middle mouse. You move kind of side to side, which is nice. And then something that's important, isn't mentioned very often for some reason, is if your pivot point is messed up. For example, I want to pivot around this object. Well, that's not working properly, even when I zoom in. Look at that. It's not centered. You can hit period or full stop if you're not American on your numpad. And that should zoom you in there. There's a way to do it with that. The numpad, if you have a short keyboard, I don't know what it is because I use a full-sized one, but search it up. How to change, I don't know, pivot point without a full-size keyboard in Blender or something like that. And you should get a result. Now, before I explained how 3D models work, I'm not going to do that in as much depth this time because we're already 4 minutes in. So, let's see. What's the best way to approach this? You need your gun model. That's probably a good place to start. So, very easy. Bring your thing up. Just, it could be, I should mention it, it might not be an FBX file. It could be an OBJ file. It could be GLTF. They're all the same thing. We need to actually export this from Blender with a couple of changes later. So, we're just going to export it as an FBX because it's the nicest one. So, you just drag it in. It doesn't matter if it's an OBJ, GLTF. That didn't work. Okay. Why is that not working? I'm going to restart this. I don't know why that's happening. Whoops. Clicked the wrong thing. Alright. Let's see. It really should be working because... Okay. I don't know why that's not working, but there is another way to get FBX files in, so this is probably a good way to show. Just go under Import, under File, FBX, make sure it's not Export, because that's gonna... I feel stupid every time I do it. Just these should all be fine. Click this, you'll need to locate it, probably, but click your file, Import. There we go. They're all imported. I already have them, so I'm just going to Control Z to go back because I don't need to import stuff I already have. So you should have your gun model in front of you, unlit, no textures. You can change your, sorry, my nose is itchy. Change your render mode up here. So this is modeling, best one. You're gonna be using this most of the time. This is wireframe. You can see the kind of edges. You can see like through the faces essentially that make up the 3D model. It's just for selecting things. Then you can go into this, which will show you textures. Give it a second to load. There we go. So, like I said, this is an old model, so that's not great, but just, yeah, bear with me. If you see a purple thing like this, you have a missing texture, and you'll just have to manually assign those. Search up how to do textures or even maybe shader graph basics, because I'm not going to walk through that. This will be a really long video, and you're probably not going to have that problem. So, nice, it's textured. What do we do? Like, what's going on here? Why is this in Blender? So, you may have, when you import your FBX, a skeleton, which is also known as an armature. And if I click this, it'll toggle the visibility of extra stuff like outlines and armatures on and off. So the armature might look like this. I have it set to use squares. They might be, they might stretch shapes with spheres on the end. They're probably going to be that. And it's nice, but we don't need this because we're going to be using like an armature exported from the mod tools so that we can use in-game animations. So just go over to the armature, delete. Okay, I forgot that I have modifiers on these, so we're going to apply my modifiers first. So if we click this, you probably don't need this. Don't worry about it. You can just, let me check actually. You can select multiple things the same way in files with like shift and stuff. And control, let's see. Okay, I can control J to join them. If you have multiple parts, control J when you've all selected to the main one that you want. Control J puts them all together. Nice and easy. You can see now I have some shading errors here. It's not calculated properly. And a good way to solve that is Control A. While this is selected, it's important that it's selected all transforms. And then also, ignore that. You go under here, modifiers. And this is the old version. Why don't I have the modern version of Blender? It's going to look different for you. It's going to have a search panel. Search up smooth. And you should get smooth by angle or something. They don't have that modifier in older versions of Blender. Well, I think you can do it with right click here. So you're not going to be able to do this properly with right click. It might be irreversible. And you can just do it with right click, I suppose. You can change the angle that it marks edges as sharp. I use it 30. I've modeled this so that it's 30. You might have to change it. Apparently I didn't. Maybe it's 45. We'll go with 45. I think, like I said, I modeled this a while ago. Yeah, that shouldn't be happening. There's some issues with this model. Well, whatever. How do we get rid of the armature? Delete. Once everything is done like that, since I had it with modifiers, they weren't attached properly, you just delete the armature. Go down here. You need to go into your modifiers. You don't need this right now. Go down here, and you have vertex groups. How would I explain a vertex group? Essentially, a vertex group is a section of the mesh, which is this, the mesh or the model, that you assign for specific things. And so the armature or the skeleton, you grab specific parts of the armature of the skeleton, you move it, and it moves specific vertex groups or parts of the mesh. But we're going to generate these, so you can just hit minus on all of them because you don't need those anymore. Now, I would control save, but I don't want to overwrite my blend file. So right now you should probably save your file because we're going to start talking about the textures. Sorry, my desktop's messy. I need to fix Windows up. So you might not be looking at this right now. You should have this. This is your color file. It could be called diffuse. It could be called base color, BC. It might be called albedo. They're all basically the same thing. They have slight differences, but they're all color and they all work with each other. So That's fine. This doesn't need changes. You may not be seeing a metallic in the roughness map. You may be seeing a specular and glossy map, in which case that uses a different workflow, and I spent like 20 minutes trying to search, and I couldn't find a good way to change from specular glossy to metallic roughness, which is what Ground Branch uses. So you can do your own research. I'm sure there's a good way. I wasn't able to find, or you can find a new model, I suppose, because I can't show you how to do it because I don't know. But you may also be looking at an RMA or an ORM texture, which are colored. So you won't have two of them, you'll have one of them, and it should be like like crazy colors. And that's good. That's a good thing. That means there's less work, but we're still going to talk about these for a second here. And you should have a normal map, at least one. You may have two, and we'll also talk about that in a bit. So, yeah, leave your textures. What is a texture? It's pretty important. I'm going to double click this, bring it over here. Tony, what the actual fuck is this? What the fuck is this? How am I supposed to interpret this? Why does everything look like that? Oh look, it kind of looks like the receiver, and there's numbers here. Well, what is this? So, how a 3D model works is it needs color information. From the diffuse map color information. Is this the metallic map? No, this is the roughness map. From the roughness map, it needs how much light it should reflect. I'm not going to explain this one, it's a little bit confusing. And how metal something is. Are these right? I think I set these up wrong when I set them up a while back. But that's okay. Like, what? How am I supposed to interpret this? Essentially, it needs this 3D mapped to 2D so that you can use an image, or in other words, a texture, and you apply that onto the 3D thing, and that allows it to look like something. Otherwise, there's no good way to give it color or anything. And so it does this. I might put a GIF up here if I can be asked editing this properly of, chocolate Santas or the chocolate Easter bunnies or whatever. And they have the foil wrapped around them. And you unwrap that foil to get at the chocolate thing because chocolate's delicious. And once you've unwrapped that, imagine how it looks laid out flat. It's weird and it's deformed, but it's supposed to look like that because you're only supposed to see it when it's wrapped around that object. That's what's happening with these textures. It's the exact same thing. Similar thing with a globe. I said that weird, globe. You have your map, and that wraps around the globe. And the map is slightly distorted because it's supposed to be wrapped around a globe. It's the same idea here. You won't be able to understand this, but it wraps around the 3D object using this 2D space, which is really cool. And give me a second, I'm gonna cut here because I need to fucking remember what I'm supposed to be showing you. Alright, I'm back. And I could show you how to do an RMA texture or an ORM, but I don't need to because I'm pretty confident that the modding SDK doesn't require them. So if you have it, that's cool. I'll show you how to use it if you have it. If you don't, I'm going to show you how to use it without it, and that should work fine. So you might have extra texture maps as well. I should have mentioned you might have like AO or ambient occlusion, or you might have two normal maps, just stuff like that. Don't worry, as long as you have either metallic and roughness, or you have RMA or ORM, you have a normal map and a diffuse albedo base color, whatever the equivalent is. As long as you have those, you've got everything you need. So I'm going to go back out here, and I am going to open up another one of these on my other monitor, because now we're going to go into the mod tools really quick. Whoops. There we go. So just double click it. You can download the modding SDK on Epic Games. You just need to search up Ground Branch and it should show up. I forgot I should have Steam open. You should have Steam open when you're doing this because it needs Steam open to be able to detect that you own the thing. Very descriptive, Tony. That you own Ground Branch and it can access the assets and access the workshop for making mods. So give this a second, I'll cut when I'm back. Alright, I'm back, and said this because I started opening the game, sorry, not the game, the SDK, before I had Steam open, so, you're going to hit create mod. Ignore all this stuff. That's the other mods I've worked on. So the best thing to do, oh yeah, we have to click no here. Doesn't matter. That's not important. Click dismiss, and restart the modding SDK. Makes me feel like a bit of a fool now. But yeah, just restart it because you're gonna need that when you hit create mod. Alright, I am back in. Click no again. This time, it might say Steam has been initialized, might say nothing. As long as it doesn't say it didn't work, you should be fine. Now, where to start? So, click create mod. And this is shown in the modding SDK, but I'll show it here because obviously I need to do this. I'll show it here because I need to do this to, I mean, show you how the textures work and all that. So, I'm going to just call this, should have a capital there, Shepherds, test, mod, something like that. And Shepherd. The other stuff doesn't matter all that much because you can change it later. Create mod. Over here, what I would suggest is right-clicking, set color, new color, and I'm going to make this green just so I know that this is different from my other mod types. And it's just easy because every mod you've installed shows up here and you can't access it. For some reason it's not showing up now, but usually there's so many things here and it's so difficult to find the ones you've worked on. So usually I put my name in the front because that means they all stay together, and I make the color different so that I can find them really easy. So you'll see this. Click this. This is your workshop ID, and this is where you're doing all your work. So I'll show you that in a minute because there's no point doing anything until we have the actual model inside of Ground Branch. And the way we do that, click content, search content. So now's like is the first time you're doing something essentially. So what skeleton are you going to use? Because that's going to use the animations of that skeleton. So if it looks like an AR-15, if the moving parts are in similar spots to an AR-15, then search up AR-15 and just kind of scroll. It's usually at the bottom. SK AR-15 dummy. If you're doing a SCAR, you can search up SCAR. SCAR dummy, as long as the gun is in game. So I'm doing an AR-15 or an M4. So I'm going to get this. Just click it once. Don't open it. Right click. Asset actions. Export. And now we have this. Look at that. Ain't that cool? It's going to export. This is an FBX. So I'm going to go here and find where I have my thing. I have it under here, under temp, I think. Yeah. M4. And I'm just not going to rename it because I know what this is. And it's a pretty descriptive name. Now, I'm going to leave the modding SDK open because we're going to come back to it in a minute, but, oops, and that open as well. We are going to go back into this. So, what you can do is with your numpad, the different buttons on the numpad, change your view in Blender essentially. So I'm just hitting buttons on my numpad right now. And this allows you to see without perspective, which is great for what we're about to do, which is grab this and pull this FBX file in. It's still not doing it. I think there's something wrong with my blend file. I'll just hit import again. Lovely. Now, do not move this. This needs to be in the same position. Oh man, that looks weird. I do think there's something wrong with my blend file. It shouldn't look like that. Well, not that important. Essentially, you don't need this anymore. So, well, you should keep it. You should actually keep that for now. So hit 1. And then I'm going to hit 3. And this is going to give me the view of this. And now I can use R to rotate, G to move, or G to grab. That's how I remember it. Or S to scale. We're not going to scale it. That would make no sense. But R, and then Z to rotate on the Z axis. And if you hit Control, it snaps. And that's going to snap to 90, which is perfect because that's the right orientation we want. And I'm going to use the Blender controls again with middle mouse and shift to kind of move around. Then I'm going to hit G. And I'm just going to try line this up the best I can with the skeleton. Or not the skeleton, sorry, the preview mesh or whatever you want to call it. So that looks kinda there. That's good. I think I'm happy with this. And so once you're happy with how you have it lined up, to get out of this mode, you can just middle mouse and rotate like normal. I'm going to select this with left click, then hit delete, or you can also hit X, and that's going to get rid of it, because that's just a preview to help with lining up. This is an empty, it's not important. You could delete that if you wanted, but it doesn't matter, so just keep it, I suppose. So now what you need to do is click this, and with control, click this. Make sure this is orange and this is kind of orangey yellow. And then you want to control P, and this will open the parent menu. And you select with empty groups. And then if this is in a folder, you can just move it, drag it down to here. And now this skeleton, or I suppose the other way around, this mesh is assigned to this skeleton. And so I'm going to hit 1 again. Nope, I'm going to hit 3 because I forgot I rotated it. I'm going to just move this a little because it's taking up a lot of room. So now what do? It is assigned to the skeleton, but I mean, if I hit, well, it's a bit of a pain in the ass to explain this, but I'll explain it very, very briefly. Control Tab opens pose mode, which allows me to move bones. And I just do the same controls I use when moving the mesh. G, R. As you see, this, I believe, is the charging handle. Yeah, it says up here, this is the charging handle. As I move this, nothing's moving. Stock, nothing's moving. Fire selector, the trigger, none of this is moving because we haven't assigned this to a vertex group. And it sounds a bit complicated, but it's quite easy. So we go down here, you want to select this with this selected, and we see all these. This is nice because this is the vertex groups of the bones, and it just made them for us, which is why we had to delete the other ones earlier. So click this one, so make sure it's selected, and I'm going to go out of this mode. I'm going to hit period so I can recenter my view. And then I'm going to hit tab. And this is going to look, it's going to look a bit funny. You may have these blue lines, you may not, you might have red lines. They're not important, don't worry about them. They just help with shading information. So if they're not there, it doesn't matter. If they are there, also doesn't matter. Just ignore them. And yeah, this is pretty funky looking. What's going on here? So I'm going to very, very, very briefly explain this. These are vertices. That looks fucked up. No, it doesn't. I'm imagining things. These are vertices. They are kind of the points where everything connects. Then you can go up here to select a different thing. I'm going to select lines. Nope, they're called edges. I'm going to select edges. These are the edges that connect vertices. Select this. These are the faces that kind of connect all of the edges. And you can rotate and do this. I wouldn't do this because this is a model that's already been made. But, man, I don't know what's up with my voice today. I think I need to clear my throat. Hold on. Alright. I wouldn't go moving these or rotating them because they've been set up correctly already. And this is how you make 3D models, is moving and hit the wrong thing there. Is moving and rotating all these. Don't do that because you've got this model already made. But we still need to be in this mode. So the best way to do this is starting with what do I not need, because Ground Branch already has AR-15 magazines. I don't need this. So what you can do is just left click to select. Shift allows you to select multiple faces, or you can drag and it selects anything you've dragged in. You can do that with shift as well and just do it like this. But most of the time, all you need to do is, while hovering over something, you don't have to left click, hit L. So L, I need to make sure I pronounce that properly because that's important. And that's going to select all the vertices that are connected. And I can hit G. Sorry, I have a mirror on. I can hit G. And all of these that are connected can now be moved. And I'm just going to hit delete. And it's going to ask you, what do you want to delete? I'm just going to hit vertices, because that's everything I've selected. All of them should work there. Edges and faces should work as well, but vertices is the cleanest way of doing it. Hit L, the bottom plate of the magazine wasn't connected. Vertices. Look up here. Alright, they didn't have a follower. Or I didn't have a follower, I suppose, ages ago. So I don't need to get rid of it. And then what else? Well, there's a rail underneath this this carry handle, and I mean, the players are going to want to use that, so I'm just going to hit L, 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 and then just select all of these, delete. These are still here. Just keep it in delete till everything's gone. You can go over here, and this eye will make things visible or not visible, so I can turn that off, and then I don't have to deal with the bones being in my face. So, hit this, and it looks like the thing is clear now, and I think I need everything else. Everything else should be good to stay, so I can just stop deleting things, which is nice. And now that I have this selected, make sure you have the first. Make sure you know what you've selected. It doesn't have to be the first one, but make sure you know what you've selected. Charging handle. What's a charging handle? Well, this is a charging handle on an AR-15, so just L to select. L to select. Alright, that looks good. That needs to be put onto the charging handle bone. And so with what I have selected, assign. And let's say I accidentally assigned this as well. All I need to do is with it selected, remove, and it's not part of it anymore. So then I go down to the stock. Alright, this is the stock. Just keep hitting L until I have, there's a lot of stuff on this stock. It's not connected. Just keep hitting L until I have everything on the stock done. It's all nice and orange. Assign. Bolt. That's this. I think that's the only part of the bolt. Assign. The trigger. Assign. The safety or the fire select is this thing. Assign. Dust cover. Bit of a messy job there, but yeah, assign. Bolt catch. Assign. And the front sight, which is this thing. Assign. And then I can hit tab to get out of this mode. And now I'm back here. I am going to save this because you should probably be saving this in case something happens, Blender crashes or something. So, this is looking pretty good. I think it's time to export this. So, select this. I did that the wrong way. Actually, I don't think it matters. Select this, shift select this, should select everything, file, export, FBX. Now, these settings need to be changed a very small bit. I have a preset up here for Unreal. No, I don't. That's on Linux. Okay. So, selected objects, which only the selected objects, otherwise the camera, and I have a bunch of other meshes in here. They'd all be exported, which we do not want. We only want the mesh and the armature, so armature and then control mesh. Nope. Shift. So you have both of them. Always get that confused. Then go under armature, make sure add leaf bones is unselected. And then unselect bake animation. And everything else should be fine. So do not overwrite the other file because just in case you need to change something, we are going to name this M4 Unreal. Because whatever. The name doesn't matter that much as long as you know what it is and it's consistent. So export that. I'm going to save this. Minimize. Go back into the mod tools. Now, I can just remove this so that I'm not filtering by AR-15. Scroll down, and as you can see, this was a good idea because now I can really easily see which ones are mine. Click this under here. Excuse me. And I want to go in here. Blender automatically generates files called blend1. Essentially, this is a backup. You can just delete it. You don't delete both because one of these is, if I refresh, the actual blend file, but you can delete the other one safely. It's just a backup in case something goes wrong, or you can keep it. I tend to just delete it. Drag this in, and there's some settings we need to change. So the first setting is this. We need to select the same skeleton we exported. It'll be called something slightly different. Scale AR-15. So instead of SK dummy, AR-15 or SK AR-15 dummy, it doesn't have any of that. It's scale and then the thing. So I clicked AR-15 and exported that. So I'm going to use this one. Then the other thing is you want to scroll down and make sure instead of compute normals, import normals is selected. Otherwise things are going to look too smooth. Scroll down a bit more. You can, is there textures or just materials? Let me check. I think it's just materials, yeah. I have it set to not search materials because it doesn't find all of them anyway, and textures to not import because it doesn't always work. But it doesn't really matter because you might manually pull them in anyway. That's just a personal preference. So, could say no smoothing information was found. Make sure export smoothing groups. That doesn't matter. I could say, basically anything here it says is not important. The only thing, you can hit clear actually here. The only thing that would be important is it says that the armature is like different from the other thing. And just go here and make sure that you have both of these selected. And when you export, add leaf bones is off. That should fix it. I've had that problem before. It's a pain. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to name these really quick. This is a skeleton mesh. So we name that SK underscore. And then we have to put our prefix name. So I'm going to call it shepherd M4. And that's the skeletal mesh M4. Come in here. Viz for the physics asset. Shepherd M4. And putting shepherd or whatever your equivalent is in front means that they should be compatible with other mods. If two people were to make a mod and they both have a skeleton asset called M4, that can cause issues. Not all the time, but sometimes it would cause issues. So, what next? We want to right click, new folder. Just name this textures, because it's much easier to keep textures and the materials in their own folder over here. Go in here. You probably have textures unless you unchecked import textures. There should be stuff in there, but I'm just going to grab all these and drag them in. Only drag in the textures you need. So diffuse, metallic, roughness, and normal. If you have two normal maps, they're probably set up like this. Two different rendering engines. So there could be one called GL or OpenGL, or one called DirectX or DX. If there's one called DirectX, pull that one in. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. Technically, it'll be a little bit wrong, but it's not something a player would notice in game. So, I mean, it's hard to notice when you're looking for it sometimes. But if you see one called DirectX, use that one. These all have the correct names already. Otherwise, T underscore whatever it is, and then roughness, normal, metallic, RMA, whichever you're using. And so you just want to Control S to save. And we need to make some changes here. So, if you have an RMA texture, that is it's a little hard to explain, but it's color data, but it's not color data. It's taking the gray, it's taking like the red channel and using just the red channel as one thing. So we need to go in there, and I'll use this as an example. Pull this up here so it's the same thing. See sRGB? Just turn that off. That shouldn't be on for the RMA textures, nor should it be on for metallic or roughness. I don't know if you have to change it for the metallic roughness ones, but you do have to change it for the RMA or the ORMs. And then if this is OpenGL, if like somehow you know this is OpenGL, not the DX version, DirectX version, you can come in here, find flip green channel, and I know this is OpenGL, so I'm going to flip the green channel to make it DirectX compatible. Once again, it doesn't matter. You're not going to really notice it in game. But if you can and you know it should be changed, then go ahead and change it, because that's the way it should be. So, we need to make a material instance. Essentially, the material combines these textures and allows us to have that as one thing, and then apply that one thing to our mesh. So, I'm just going to go under GlockMax Plus, which is a mod I made because it's an easy way to find it, and just Control C, go under here, Control V, and I'm going to rename this. Obviously, you probably don't have mods you've made yourself, so what you should do is VSS Ventores or the Mark 23, go under there and copy and paste one of these ones. So I'm going to go back in here, open this, pull this up here. Doesn't matter, just ignore these, not a big deal. So, we have some options here. First one's first, make sure this is selected, and find your diffuse map. Just search up whatever your prefix is. If you've made lots of mods, there should be lots of things. Otherwise, you can just... It shouldn't be too much if you search up your thing. I fucking missed it. So I'll just search up M4 as well. Alright. It's not here. Oh, I don't have my prefix in it, that's why. Put your prefix in it, it makes things a lot easier. But this is a tutorial, so I won't bother. But combo texture, you want to turn off if you don't have RMA. Otherwise, you just find your RMA or ORM. And if it's an ORM, you have to come up here, select this, and then make sure to uncheck this so it's using ORM instead of RMA, because it's the same information, but it's formatted differently. So otherwise, it might look a little messed up. I am going to unselect this because I do not have an RMA texture. I didn't make one. Roughness blend. Is that what I'm looking for? Roughness blend mask? I don't... Oh, here we go. Use metallic and roughness texture. Where are those? Where do those show up? I can't see where they're showing up. That's quite annoying. Why is that happening? I can see that it's like taking that away. Alright, the best way to go forward, I suppose, would be to make an RMA texture. I'd use GIMP. GIMP is good, it's free. Pretty good for doing that type of thing. Search up how to make RMA texture or something like that. I'm not going to show it here because this video is 37 minutes unedited. Holy shit. I've rambled on for a long time. This is going to be a pain in the ass to edit. Okay, I'm just going to uncheck these. And I'm just going to put in values that kind of look right. Do not do this. This is bad form. Don't do this. It'll look awful. And it's going to look awful when I do it too. Yeah, I think that's fine. And then find your normal one. So M4, normal. There we go. It looks okay. You might get an error appear. RMA used as mask. That's fine. Doesn't matter. So save that. Click out of it. And now we have this. So my original model had like, yeah, what's that? That's 6 materials or something. That's a lot of materials, and I don't feel like setting up all those materials. So I'm only going to set up this one material. So here's the first material slot. You can't see it under my webcam. Really hope that hasn't been in the way for other things. Ooh, it's been in the way for exporting. I talked through it, should be fine. Click under here and just MI for material instance. Then M4. Okay. Shepherd M4. And as you can see, the controls are different from Blender. I should mention the controls. Right click WASD to move around, and you can only move around with WASD and look around with this when you're holding right click, and then Q goes down, E goes up, and that's kind of the basics. So if you zoom in, my thing looks messed up because for some reason my shading was wrong, but yeah, you can see the kind of details in here, and you can see the small kind of specks of dirt or dust, markings, all that stuff, and all this missing ones because I don't feel like setting them all up for the tutorial. That's all nice and good, and this is mentioned in the SDK, but it is important. I'm gonna save here. Is to apply an LOD. Basically, too many triangles or too many faces is bad, very, very bad. And when you're far away, your model doesn't need as many faces to look as good because it's smaller on the screen. So you just click this, 4, or 3, or whatever, 3 or 4. Wouldn't go higher than 4, doesn't need that many. Wouldn't go lower than 3 because then it's not as optimized. Apply changes, and what this does is automatically make versions of this that are smaller in triangle count and look slightly worse, but it applies them when you're further away, so you'd never notice. So as you can see, you can notice that's losing detail. But if I'm up close and I change LOD auto to LOD 1, yeah, you can kind of see, oh, that's getting much worse quality. But you're so far away that you can't notice. Every one of them looks the same from far away. But it saves up on processing power, so you have to do it, or it's gonna cause issues. Very easy. It's just a couple button clicks. Control S and close. And give me a minute to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to talk about next. we're basically finished now. I had to think about it. I'm going to show you how to make a child blueprint, but other than that, I think we're done. The mod SDK wiki covers everything else, but we're going to just right click, blueprint class, and search in here, BP, weapon, master. What is it? It's, I don't know. I'll just scroll and all. There we go. They're down here. Firearm master. So, you want to find kind of the weapon, usually the same thing you use the skeleton on. For handgun, they're all just under handgun. I don't know, I can't think of a specific one. Like the LMGs, I don't think they have their own weapon master. Yeah, they don't. The PKM does. Oh no, they do. Just find whichever one you use a skeleton on. I'll use the AR-15, so I'll go into that. Click AR-15 master. Just hit select, and that's made a child blueprint. So BP underscore your prefix. Got the capital. And then what it is. Bam. Save that. Double click to open. And pull this up here. Now we're in. Lovely. It's quite nice. Look at that. It's the same thing we saw in Blender. We just want to click this. That's going to open this. Click that. Search up your skeletal mesh. So M4 should bring it up for me. And now my thing is in here. The skeleton is working. If I scroll down, oops, hit class defaults, scroll down, I can see these, and this huge block is all the animations this is going to automatically use because of the skeleton. Now, there's plenty other things to do. There's an hour and a half more of work on your end, once you know what you're doing anyway. An hour probably. Of stuff to actually get this working in-game, get the rails working, get a muzzle working, have the magwell working, ejection port, all that stuff, but I'm not going to go over it because it's all talked about in the modding SDK wiki, so that'll probably be the first link below. That's once I think this has probably brought you up to speed to what you would need if you want to move on to the modding wiki and actually get stuff done if you didn't fully understand the workflow before. I think that's everything. Yeah, I walked you through the models, the textures, the yeah, getting everything in Unreal, lining up the skeleton. I'll show you how to test animations as well, just to make sure things are working. Select class defaults. And reload charge. I know there's something that moves on this one. And if you hit that little eyeglass button and then double click it, you can open it. Then you want to go over here, change the preview mesh to your thing. Here we go. And as I could see, release bolt. This part moves. Looks like it's moving correctly. I can hit preview rack bolt. That's this part moving correctly. And yeah, it looks like the skeleton's working fine. Knew it would because I'm a genius and I kind of know what I'm doing here. But yeah, in all seriousness, I think this is over now. I think that's everything you need. The modding wiki should cover most other things. I'd read it carefully, read it thoroughly. It's laid out a little funny. Sometimes you have to like click links and then look through the stuff in the link and then click more links and look through the stuff in those links. I'd suggest just opening a new tab, like right click, open link in new tab, and just keep doing that when you're reading through it. It makes things a bit easier. And yeah, I think that's everything. Thanks for watching. It's 45 minutes. That is fucking very long. I always ramble on these and I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to edit this down. It's probably just around 40 minutes edited down. So thanks for watching. I hope this helped a little because I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't going to help people. So yeah, happy modding.